Hello, and welcome to the 2019-2020 Grogan Residential College virtual graduation and awards ceremony. For those of you who are watching and may not know who I am, my name is John Sopper. I am the program chair for Grogan Residential College, and along with my colleague, Dr. Sarah Colonna, who is the associate program chair for Grogan College, we will be your MCs for this ceremony you're about to watch. As you can clearly see, we are virtual this year, but I can assure you, beyond any doubt, that the work that we've done together this year, Grogan students and teachers and staff, is anything but virtual. You and your accomplishments as learners are as real and as tangible as ever. And I'm confident that the recognitions and honors that we are about to bestow are going to make that abundantly clear. However, because I am the program chair and because it's what program chairs do, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the unusual circumstances in which we find ourselves now due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to say something about the light that our current predicament sheds on the enduring importance of the kind of education I believe Grogan Residential College endeavors to support and to promote. It has been an unusual spring. I think we can all agree about that. Very quickly, we all transitioned to living and learning online, remotely, and virtually, as UNCG closed its physical campus, but not its learning community, in order to help stop the spread of the coronavirus. We did it very successfully, in my opinion, but it is strange. There's no getting around that. It's strange not to be together to celebrate the end of another academic year. And it's strange to say goodbye for the summer without being able to hug friends or be present in person. Let's just acknowledge that. Things right now are different, and we did not choose and we did not plan for them to be this way. We are adjusting. We are making do. And this brings me to what I want to share about the enduring importance of the special kind of education Grogan Residential College seeks to engage all of us in, teachers, staff, and students, learning together in a way that is quite unique, fairly uncommon these days, and in my opinion, never more important and more valuable than now, as we stare into the face of COVID-19. What do I mean? We could start with the word professionalism. If you know anything about Grogan College, then you know we are the residential college that is all about professionalism. We're about developing the professional self and about becoming a better professional by learning professional competencies. Professional is one of our buzzwords around here. Reflection is another one of those buzzwords. Again, if you know anything about Grogan College, and I know a lot of you do, you know we do a lot of reflecting. We reflect on our backgrounds, on our values, our strengths, our goals. We reflect on our virtues, our prior learning, future selves, authentic selves, our millennial selves, ourselves as learners, on how we study, set goals, clear space, and set about tasks. We reflect on all of that. We reflect as well on the personal, the local, the global, on connections we see across different courses and fields of study, between our in-class and our out-of-class experiences, on why we think some bit of information we gathered for a research project is true or relevant or reliable and credible. We reflect on our styles as leaders, on our place in society, on our future careers. You name it, and in Grogan, we reflect on it. And we reflect on how it all relates to our individual lives, to our learning and growth, and especially to our future as professionals. We even put it all into a portfolio of reflections. In Grogan, we reflect. Another word that comes to mind for me is society. If you're paying attention around Grogan, then you know we're doing all of this reflecting and all of this professional competency development, not simply for our own sake and for the sake of our own well-being and growth or our own future careers. Rather, it is also about how we tap into our authentic selves to find our particular way of contributing to the society around us in ways that both express who we are and, importantly, that foster greater social justice. If you take core courses in Grogan College, and I know all of you have, and if you attend our programs, then at some point, and probably fairly often, you find yourself thinking about how our society works, how it got to be the way it is, who it works best for, and most importantly, who it leaves out. Who it leaves out in terms of access to resources and wealth, things like money, power, positions, good health, and quality education. In short, and importantly for Grogan, given our emphasis on professionalism and developing the professional self, access to things is something we think future professionals need to think about. As educators, healthcare professionals, business leaders, and artists, many of you will significantly control the access that the rest of us have to certain opportunities and goods. And so in Grogan, that is why you've probably heard me say, or at least I hope you heard me say, that professionals are gatekeepers, and that good professionals need to play that gatekeeper role with a keen eye fixed on diversity, equity, and justice, reflecting on these issues of access, equity, and justice, and understanding and thinking critically about them, specifically as a professional competency. Well, that is a Grogan thing too. I could go on, and for a moment I will, to mention creativity, imagination, leadership. You know we're big on creativity and imagination. We publish our own sci-fi magazine, after all. We are big on leadership. We have our community ambassadors and our teaching interns. And we are big on inquiry and research and on making connections. All right, so what, you may ask? Has any of this to do with COVID-19 and what's happening now? Well, for me, and this is really what I want to share, is I've sat at home doing my physical and my social distancing, and as I've watched countless news reports about the coronavirus march across my TV, and as I've seen one brave, competent, and dedicated professional public servant after another get interviewed, doctors, nurses, public health professionals, EMTs, epidemiologists, police officers, firefighters, bus drivers, respiratory therapists, CNAs, counselors, home health aides, nursing home providers, teachers, artists, and the list goes on. What I have thought to myself as I've watched these interviews is that's what Grogan is all about. That is why Grogan is important. These brave, well-trained, well-informed, competent, articulate, research and data-driven problem analyzers and problem solvers, these innovators, team players, and helpers who are out there on the front line every day during this pandemic, and all night too, doing what needs to be done, and doing it right after they first imagine it and create it on the spot to deal with things that no one expected to happen just yesterday. These are the professionals we are talking about and striving to become in Grogan. Professional is not a title or job. It's a way of being. These individuals who've been interviewed on my TV exemplify the commitment to knowledge that is at the heart of the scholarship category in our portfolio. They exemplify the dedication to improving society and making it more equitable that is the heart of our portfolio's society category. And they embody the fit between self and career, that sense of a calling, that all the reflecting I talked about earlier is intended to help you discover, and failing that, to invent. Finding your calling, tapping into your passions, beliefs, values, and commitments as a way to find your way to your profession and as a way to find your way to your particular contribution to making society better. That is what Grogan is all about. So, before I turn this over to Dr. Colonna for the next phase of our ceremony, I want you to think about what I've just said and to be thinking about those images of the professional public servants that we've been seeing, and have those in the back of your mind as we begin to go through and recognize those among us who have made particularly important contributions to all of the things I've just been talking about. And here is Dr. Colonna.
Hi Grogan College, it's Dr. Colonna. I get to honor our Grogan College Community Ambassador. This group of community ambassadors, Ayana, Chancey, Daisha, Erica, Essence, Haley, Lily, Neve, Sarah, Sierra, Kiara, and Jasmine, were our largest in Grogan history. They collectively are hardworking, thoughtful, and passionate. Some of their work is easy to see. They're there on move-in day. They help plan Friday Night Fun, Night of the Arts, and Grogan Ball. Some of their work is more behind the scenes. They represent Grogan College at the Spartan Showcase. We read Abby Wambach's The Wolf Pack. They represent Grogan on the Residential College Student Advisory Board. And this year, we did a Community Ambassador Community Service Project where we built a wheelchair ramp for a family in High Point. This group of community ambassadors was so efficient, we finished 2 hours early, and the contractor said he'd never had a group that congratulated and cheered each other on as much. This year, the planning work for Grogan graduation, done by Daisha and Chancey, is also behind the scenes, but it will live on. Plans and graphics are going to be used in Grogan College next year. Your ideas and spirit remain in Grogan. I'm excited for you to take the next step and to watch your leadership continue to grow. We will miss you. And I get to announce the group of incoming CAs. Emily, Caden, Brenda, Alex, Carrie, Erica, Marcus, Ope, and Kendall, who are going to take up the mantle and continue to represent Grogan, grow as leaders, and do amazing things in the coming year. We had one incoming CA meeting before campus closed, and this group is energetic and ready to put their stamp on the role. I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the coming year. Each year we honor 2 students, one first year and one second year, who exhibit a strong commitment to the program and embody the spirit of Grogan College. These students reach beyond themselves to help our community and campus grow. They check in with faculty and peers and are ready to help when asked. They are all around good Grizzlies. This year's Lime Award goes to first year Grizzly Carrie Cope. The Till Award goes to second year Grizzly Ty Gibson. Congratulations, 2 great Grizzlies. This is a well-deserved honor. We honor our bear mascot with the Greta Grizzly Award. Like grizzly bears, Grogan College students are curious, empathetic, and determined. This award goes to 2 students who represented us with pride this year, Sarah Cobb and Chancey Vang. Each of you showed hard work in your RCO classes. You were quick to help and always had time for others. This might reflect the field you are working towards, education and nursing. You will be a great teacher and nurse and represent Greta well. Congratulations, Sarah and Chancey.
Thank you very much, Dr. Colonna, and congratulations to our award winners. Thank you, current CAs, for all the hard work and leadership that you've demonstrated, and thanks ahead of time to our incoming CAs for all the wonderful things I know you will do in the semester to come. Congratulations to the Lime and the Teal Award winners and to our Greta Award winners. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce the recipients of our Portfolio Awards, and we will move to that right along. So the first category in our portfolio, as many of you are well aware, is the self category. And most of you have done important reflections, important work in this area. And just to kind of remind everyone of what we're about, that the Grogan Residential College encourages students to connect their academic studies and professional goals to their individual identities and values. Knowing ourselves, answering questions that matter to us, and building careers that express who we are and what we care about are important elements of the Grogan experience. And these are reflected in the self section of the portfolio. Winning submissions in the self category demonstrate this important commitment to self-reflection and to self-understanding. In the self category of the portfolio, we have 2 subcategories in which we give awards. One is called the Beginning Grogan Reflection, and we have 3 winners in that category. And also in the self part of the portfolio, we have awards in the personal growth area, and we will have 3 recipients to announce in that category as well. Beginning here with the Beginning Grogan Reflection, our first recipient is Alex Hauselman. Alex wrote a wonderful essay about his crazy Yadkin County family and his Italian immigrant relatives in Pennsylvania and how they have influenced him. Alex aspires to always be an honorable person. And when we were all together watching the PBS documentary Family Photos USA during Grogan orientation back in August, Alex was particularly struck by the story of Caswell Holt, who you may remember is the first African-American sheriff in North Carolina. And Caswell Holt, however, lost his life to a lynching, trying to do the right thing. So congratulations, Alex, and on receipt of this recognition. Our second recipient is Opie Idau. Opie wrote about how her parents came to America to pursue an education. From then, she has learned important lessons about being humble, being respectful, and valuing education. Watching the Family Photos USA documentary during orientation, Opie was particularly engaged by the story of Dee McDougall. Dee is a fourth-generation entrepreneur, and she talked about where she is today as an entrepreneur is because of her mother, the upbringing that was provided to her by her mother. And Opie feels the same way about her own mother. Our third recipient in the Beginning Grogan Reflection category is Andy Mejia. Andy wrote a stirring essay about how at an early age, in kindergarten, he began his journey to wanting to be a professional who helps others. Andy tells the story of another little child in his kindergarten class who collapsed suddenly and was taken to the hospital. Now, the other child recovered and returned to school, but from that point on, Andy writes, he was hooked on being someone who helps others. Andy was struck in watching the Family Photos documentary during orientation by the story in that documentary of Brookstown neighborhood in Durham and how it was overlooked and unappreciated. This is similar to the experience of many CNAs, Andy has his CNA, who do the important frontline work of caring for others in their everyday activities, but who sometimes do not get the recognition that they deserve. So congratulations to our three recipients of recognitions in the Beginning Grogan Reflection. That's Alex Hauselman, Opie Adawu, and Andy Mejia. Okay, as I just mentioned, we have two categories in the self part of the portfolio in which we give awards, and this second category under self reflections is the personal growth category. Again, we have three recipients of awards in this category, and this was a tough one. We had a lot of great submissions. But our first award recipient is Grace Gayhart. Grace wrote about meeting her religiously devout roommate at the very beginning of school here in Grogan, and how this challenged and transformed her expectations and her assumptions about religious people. Being raised in a family that was suspicious of religion, to say the least, Grace initially kept to herself, assuming the worst from her religiously devout roommate. But when her roommate's reactions to Grace were not what Grace had been raised to expect, Grace began a journey to a newfound appreciation and respect for religion. This was an important growth lesson during her time in college. So congratulations, Grace, on receiving one of the personal growth awards. As you can see, our second recipient of an award under the personal growth category is Andrea Tyson. Andrea did a video instead of a written reflection for her portfolio submission, and in her video she tells the story of working with folks in the Student Success Center here on campus, whose tough love approach turned her into a more responsible and more accountable college student. Andrea also describes her first visit to a professor's office, to the office hours, to get help. This is going to see Meg Horton, who was her instructor for Bio 111. This is an experience that taught Andrea that she, as it turns out, is a global learner, right? And that going to meet with her professor can be an important component in her academic success. Getting to know your teachers, she writes, is important to learning success. In her video, Andrea also talks about making the change from being someone with a fixed mindset to being a person with a growth mindset. This is something that happened for her in her first year experience class. She now understands that being able to do something is the end result of an effort of learning and growth. That our abilities are not fixed at birth, but can be developed and grown through effort and learning. Andrea's last story in her video is about the opportunities to learn in a different way that she has found in Grogan. It is the same amount of material and the same rigor, she says in her video, as her traditional major classes. But here in Grogan, students learn in a different more flexible and open way. GRC students get to create. And Andrea has learned that creating, say, a visual collage in RCO 215 or videos for her portfolio reflection can be just as effective as traditional approaches to being a successful learner. So congratulations, Andrea. The third recipient in the personal growth categories is Kendall Young. In his portfolio reflection in the personal growth area, Kendall writes about how his involvement in the African Studies Union and in Guy Talk have helped him to open up, to appreciate perspectives different from his own, and especially how to be okay with pursuing goals in life that are unique to himself. Being confident to be yourself, he writes, is an important lesson he is taking away from his first semester in college. So again, congratulations to all three of our recipients for their fine work and their submissions to the personal growth section of the portfolio. As you all know, in addition to the self area of the portfolio, we also have a section of the portfolio that we call scholarship. And this is where we provide opportunities to reflect on ourselves as scholars. And in the scholarship category this year, we have two areas in which we are giving out awards. There is the inquiry prompt, which really is focused on research and on assessing and evaluating the relevance, reliability, and accuracy of sources of information. And in addition to the inquiry prompt, we also have a scholarship category called Making Connections. And that winners of the Making Connections area are make insightful connections across disciplines, different fields of study, or different perspectives, or they adapt and apply skills, knowledge, or methods that they gain in one situation to a new situation in order to demonstrate a developing sense of themselves as learners. So those are the two areas in scholarship this year, and I will continue by announcing our winners. Okay, so the three winners in the inquiry part of the scholarship section of the portfolio are Erica Hare, Ashton Reed, and Jakara Wiggins. Erica wrote about research she did to complete the narrative history project in RCO 202, Work in Modern History. Erica talks about the ABC, Authority Bias Currency checklist, that she used to assess the strengths and weaknesses of her sources. She also makes the very important point that respecting other thinkers' intellectual property, their ideas, is important in order to make the world safe for innovation and creativity. If people's ideas are not safe and they are not given credit for what they create, then we could see a decline in innovation and creativity. Ashton Reed submitted a very thoughtful and insightful reflection on the nature and value of respecting intellectual property as well. The project she chose to reflect on is an assignment from RCO 203, Ethics and Imagination, where students compare the very different ways of investigating and understanding the nature of education that are represented in the work of Paulo Freire on the one hand, and an article authored by Jeannie Daniels and Jennifer Brooker on the other. One important point Ashton makes in her reflection that really stands out is that she rightly notes how students, like herself, have personal experiences with education that they can use to help assess the reliability and the credibility of work by scholars such as Freire. So again, Ashton makes the important point in her reflection that as students, we have experience to draw on that we can also use to help us assess the reliability, credibility, and relevance of what we are presented in class. Our final award recipient is Jakara Wiggins. Jakara reflected on a research project she did in Meg Horton's RCO 155 seminar in critical thinking. The project was entitled How Mood Disorders and Obesity Impact the Body Physically and Mentally. In her reflection on this research project, Jakara points out a number of ways that you can do background research on an author or a source to confirm that they have the experience and the credentials to be experts on the particular topic you are researching. So those are, again, our 3 award winners for the inquiry section of the scholarship section of the portfolio. Congratulations to each of you, and again, thank you for your valuable work and important submissions to the portfolio. The next category in scholarship, as I mentioned earlier, is our Making Connections portfolio awards. To those we will turn next. In addition to the inquiry prompt within the scholarship part of the portfolio, we also have a reflection in what we call the Making Connections area. And as you can see, our 3 award recipients in the Making Connections reflection prompt are Michaela Mickles, Anna Zeicher, and Sam Williams. Michaela, for her Making Connections reflection, talked about the final project she did for RCO 215, Global Social Issues. The purpose of the assignment was to investigate the humanistic side of a profession that the student is interested in entering, and to do so by interviewing someone who practices that profession. Michaela is interested in math, science, and biology, so she decided to interview a person who works in UNCG's math department and a person who works in our bio labs. Going into these interviews, Michaela thought there was not going to be much of a humanistic side to working in math or science. But after interviewing her 2 participants, Michaela came away seeing how, for these 2 women, working in math and science did express deep commitments, values, and their cultural background that define them as human beings. In this way, Michaela wrote, she was able to connect the humanistic themes studied in RCO 215 with the areas of math and science that are of most interest to her. Anna, on the other hand, who also wrote about an assignment in RCO 215, Global Social Issues, chose for her reflection an assignment that was a perspectives project that involved spending time in the UNCG archives researching the different perspectives of UNCG students from the past. Anna focused on the period of desegregating UNCG and Tate Street businesses. She investigated the first 2 African-American women to attend UNCG, Betty Ann Tillman and Joanne Davis. From this project and other experiences in RCO 215, Anna made connections to how she can be a better student, a better advocate for social change, and a better healthcare provider in her future career. In particular, the lessons she learned about understanding different perspectives by doing this project in RCO 215, she now sees can be applied to all of these areas of her life. Lastly, our 3rd award recipient is Sam Williams, a 2nd-year student and now a rising junior. Sam chose to do a video for his reflection. And in his video, Sam discusses the ways that topics discussed in RCO 203, Ethics and Imagination, having to do with Plato's Republic, topics discussed in RCO 215, Global Social Issues around Civil Rights, and the RCO 390 Capstone course, all connected for him around issues of fairness, of equity, and of building wealth. He also tells a powerful story in his video about learning the lesson that people can react to the same thing in very different ways. You cannot assume the way you experience something is the way everyone will experience it, Sam reports. So again, congratulations and thank you for these fine submissions to the portfolio. These are our esteemed Making Connections scholars. Next, we will discuss the recipients of the Society Portfolio Reflection Award. To begin our presentation of the award recipients in the Society area of the portfolio, let's first remind ourselves what that particular part of the portfolio is about. The Grogan Portfolio Award in the Society category recognizes students actively engaged in influencing society through service and community contributions, and/or for political activism and engagement for social change. Recipients of this award demonstrate connections and commitments beyond the classroom to other contexts that shape society in positive and productive ways, that demonstrate reflection skills and effective written communication skills as demonstrated in the portfolio submission. This year's recipients of the Society Award are Carrie Cope, Michaela Hargrove, and Jair McClendon. Carrie submitted a video and a collage about her experience being a Grizzly, a UNCG student, and an engaged contributor to society. To illustrate the impact she wants to have on society and to show how she works towards having that impact, Carrie talks in her video about founding a community service organization on campus called Circle K. She also talks about her involvement in the Bryan School of Business student group Threads and about her work to bring representatives from the Thirst Project to do a presentation on water scarcity in Grogan College last fall. In all of these ways, Carrie demonstrates the Grogan College commitment to using our talents and our education and our professional positions to contribute to making society better. For her part, Michaela Hargrove writes about the inspiration to be a contributing member of society that came to her from her high school basketball coach, Ms. Greenwood, and from her great uncle, Benny, who died unexpectedly from cancer. Michaela quotes one of her basketball coach's favorite sayings, that you can be a leader on the court, but you also want to be a leader in society. This quote stuck with Michaela, and combined with the loss of Uncle Benny, it became the push she needed to get involved with helping cancer patients throughout her high school years and into college. And now, to this day, Michaela strives to be, quote, more than a normal person in my community. She plans to continue giving back to society through her future career as a physical therapist. Our third award recipient in the Society category is Jair McClendon. Jair is a second-year student in Grogan this year and now a rising junior. In his essay, Jair writes, quote, since my freshman year, I have made it a priority to participate in some type of community service each semester. He has been a part of the MLK Days of Service and the Spartan Service Day. But perhaps most impressive, Jair has served as an intern where he has been involved in the Tenant Leadership Academy. The Tenant Leadership Academy is a program established with the intention of improving the Greensboro community. The goal, Jair writes, is to help low-income residents in the Greensboro area learn their rights as tenants and renters and to come together as a group to protect each other and to protect their rights through the formation of a tenant association. Jair writes, witnessing this grassroots activism was inspiring, and to know that I was playing a role in such an impactful project gave me a sense of purpose. Jair plans to continue this sort of activism at the grassroots level by becoming a lawyer who helps others to know and to secure their rights. All three of these students are excellent examples of the significance and importance that Grogan College attaches to contributing to society. So thank you, recipients, for your wonderful contributions to the portfolio and for your wonderful contributions to society. So, like I said in my opening remarks at the beginning of this ceremony, in Grogan, we do a lot of reflecting. And if you've been following along so far, you've seen just how much reflecting we do. We've been talking about and giving awards in a variety of areas of the portfolio where students have done exceptional work. It's been tough, to be honest with you, and before we go on and talk about our overall Best Portfolio Award winner, I want to take a moment to pause here and thank Meg Horton and Dr. Cheryl Lieb, who assisted in reading and responding to all of these portfolio reflections that you all have been doing, along with our graduate assistant, Naija Tashamba. The four of us constituted the Portfolio Awards Committee, and we had the great pleasure to be able to look and get an overall view of all the kinds of things that you all are thinking about and reflecting on. So I will say again, congratulations to all of those who have been recognized, and to many others we haven't mentioned who wrote beautiful pieces that we weren't able to recognize. We'd love to have more awards, but at this point in the ceremony, it's time to step back and look at the portfolio as a whole, and to look at students who made multiple submissions to multiple categories and whose submissions to the portfolio stand out as particularly in depth, particularly thoughtful, particularly insightful, particularly well crafted, etc., etc. It's a tough one. We had a lot of great things to look at and to sort through. Very creative community in Grogan College. And so we struggled with this, but we have nonetheless settled upon, Andrea Tyson as the recipient of our overall Best Portfolio Award. I've already talked with you about Andrea's submissions to the beginning reflection and to the personal growth reflection, where she talked about experiences with learning that to have a growth mindset. But she also had very significant submissions to the society prompt in the portfolio, where she talked about her involvement in the Association of Nursing Students on campus, the Red Cross Blood Drive, the Spartan Open Pantry, and she made connections to her involvement in these social community service efforts to the ideas that she learned in her RCO 203 class when she was introduced to the writings of W.E.B. Du Bois, and she saw that Du Bois's ideas and Du Bois's values and reflections supported and animated her own work. So for completeness and for depth and quality of overall reflections, we're going to pause here to recognize Andrea Tyson and to congratulate her as our Best Overall Portfolio Award winner for 2019-2020. Congratulations, Andrea, for excellent work. Now, after listening to and thinking about all of those reflections in the portfolio, you might think that reflecting is just about all we have time to do in Grogan College, but that is not the case. We also, and it's amazing to say that we do it as well, do a great deal of research in Grogan Residential College. Research is one of the things we really like to promote our students getting involved in and understanding and appreciating and learning to use. This is a key part of being a successful professional. Data-driven, research-based is how we roll. So with that said, then, I also want to move on to talk about some of the students who we want to recognize for their research. So, we will move on now to our research awards. However, before I go on to name the winners of our research awards this year, I want to take a moment to talk about just how significant this particular year has been in Grogan College when it comes to research done by students. I want everyone to know that we had more than 60 students complete the capstone course, as well as 4 students who did independent study capstones, where they also did research projects one-on-one. And this is our largest group to take capstone and complete the whole Grogan program from first to second year. And so we will be awarding a lot of graduation cords to this particular group of second-year students when they graduate from UNCG. And we're very proud of each and every one of you. And it has been a great pleasure to work with this group of second-year students. I'm going to give a shout out to our current first years who are rising second years. You've got a tall order to match, and we expect to see you do that. We are confident you will do that. So I think I want to share, right, that despite the coronavirus intervening and all of just the disruptions that we encountered this spring, including the undergraduate research expo having to move online and become virtual, of the more than 60 students that completed research projects in capstone, more than 30 of those students successfully submitted their research posters with narrated PowerPoint video, right, to the undergraduate research expo. And those projects can be seen online. You'll see a link in the slides going forward where you can access and see what students have been doing. I also think it's important to say that Ethan McKellar, a Grizzly, right, one of our capstone students, won first place in the whole Undergraduate Research Expo Emerging Scholars category. So there were something like 70 some or 80 emerging scholar submissions to the expo this year, and Ethan was selected by a committee that I'm not on and that no one from Grogan is on as the first place winner in the Emerging Scholars category. But if that was not enough, Grogan is so great that Diana Angeles won the third place in the same Emerging Scholars category. So Grogan College students this year took 2 of the 3 top honors in the Emerging Scholars category. And I think that that's really an important milestone for us. And congratulations to Ethan and to Diana for excellent work. But we had so many really stellar projects created by Grogan students this year that, in fact, we felt compelled to recognize more Grogan students with research awards than we've ever done before. And as you're about to see, we're going to recognize 4 of those many stellar projects. Okay, so here we are. Here are the 4 that we are recognizing for research this year in Grogan College. And you can see that we have such a large group that I have to get a lot smaller on the screen. I've already talked a little bit about Ethan McKellar's work. For those of you who don't know, Ethan is an artist. He's a sculptor. And the project that he submitted for capstone and for the research awards was a sculpture project that he worked on throughout the whole semester called Impermanence Collision. It's a great piece of work. And I think you should contact Ethan and follow up with him and find out more about it. It was a wonderful project. And the way he spoke about it and talked about his artistic process and his thought process and his carving process was really quite exceptional. I've also already mentioned Diana Angeles, who was the third place winner in the expo. And for her investigation of Hispanic Americans' patterns of accessing medical care. Her project is entitled Factors Driving Hispanics in the USA to avoid professional medical care. And this is an issue that is of deep concern to Diana, and that is connected to her future. She wants to be a healthcare professional, and she is dedicating her education and her work towards improving and enhancing the quality of healthcare for the Hispanic community in the United States, beginning with this question of why don't more Hispanic Americans access professional medical care. Great project by Diana, done very, very well. We are also going to recognize this year Jordan Frazier for her study of the barriers that physically disabled individuals encounter when going to medical school, and then as a consequence, Jordan discusses, of a lower number of disabled individuals going to and completing medical schools. The impact of that is that there are not people in the medical profession who are fully aware of what physically disabled individuals might be encountering, the challenges they might be encountering when they try to access medicine. So the title of Jordan's research project was Why So Few Disabled Doctors? And her conclusions had to do with the kinds of barriers that medical schools themselves continue to have in place that discourage physically disabled students from completing their medical degree. And then last but certainly not least, and I'm sure a lot of you know Kate, and know Kate, you know that she's certainly not least of any in any crowd. Great RA, great Grogan student, a dedicated advocate as well, very committed. And we want to recognize Kate for her excellent project. She investigated the outcomes, the differences in outcomes, comparing comprehensive approaches to sex education to abstinence-only approaches. And so her project was entitled, What Are the Outcomes Associated with Comprehensive as Compared to Abstinence-Only Sex Education Programs? An excellent project. All of these projects demonstrate the commitment to creating knowledge, to moving from being knowledge consumers, we like to say, to becoming knowledge producers. So congratulations to our 4 winners, and again, kudos to all of those other wonderful projects that we were not able to recognize this year. In some respects, our highest honor in Grogan College is the Ione Grogan Award. This is an award that recognizes the legacy of our namesake, Ione Grogan, who I hope all of you know, was a mathematics professor and what was then called a residence hall council when UNCG was Women's College of North Carolina. And what that means is that Ione Grogan was a trailblazer in that, much like the Grogan College program that bears her name today, she took learning everywhere. We can learn in many different spaces and places and in many different ways. And Ione Grogan, then as a teacher, existed both in the mathematics department and in the classroom, but also in the residence hall. And so she was one of the early trailblazers in breaking down these barriers between in-class and out-of-class learning and taking learning everywhere. So that is the kind of legacy that Grogan Residential College also represents. This is a program where people live together, where they go to class together, where they learn in the hallways, they learn in the elevators, they learn in the parlors, they learn on campus, off campus, in class, out of class, seeing their professors, where they live, interacting and engaging with each other and being what is often referred to as a true learning community. And so we like to recognize Ione Grogan because she was a trailblazer in creating this kind of program, exemplifying this kind of learning everywhere. That said, right, and as you can already see, right, to recognize a student for the Ione Grogan Award involves looking at students who exemplify this Ione Grogan legacy of being involved all over, everywhere, in everything, being abundantly curious and wanting to learn from everyone and from everything and from every place and episode, and just really having their hands in everywhere and wanting and being curious and being interested and being a part of everything and making a contribution in every way that they can. And so while we do have a great many students in Grogan Residential College that we like to honor, and so many ways in which the students continue to astound me in all the different things that you do and different ways that you are, we are going to recognize Ayana Chalula this year. And so Ayana is, like I said, involved and has been involved and contributing and learning and soaking it up in every way she can. She's taken and excelled in a number of residential college core courses where she's always, an engaged, active, involved, prepared student with, importantly, questions to ask. But she's also been on our hall council and served in that capacity. So she's been very active in the residential living side of Grogan College. She's been a teaching intern. She's been a teaching intern for me, which is really hard to do. I know I'm not the easiest or most organized person in the world, but Ayana did a great job as the teaching intern for my course. But she's also been a CA and been a community ambassador and worked with Dr. Colonna and the other community ambassadors we talked about earlier in this ceremony. As a CA, Ayana was just took the reins and took the lead and created a service project that was very successful for the CAs, where they built a ramp for a house and got to play with tools. Electric tools and saw type tools and those kinds of tools. So you can see, I think from the things that I've mentioned, why we are so delighted and honored to recognize Ayana Chalulu as in a particular way embodying the comprehensive, learn everywhere, do everything, grab every opportunity quality that we take from Ione Grogan and that we see in Ayana. So congratulations to Ayana Chalula, who is our 2019-2020 Ione Grogan Scholar. Congratulations to you, Ayana. It's been a pleasure knowing you and working with you, and we hope to see you again around Grogan soon. Well, that concludes the academic year 2019-2020 Grogan Residential College graduation and awards ceremony. I want to thank everyone who has been watching and participating with us in this virtual celebration. I hope that all are as impressed as I am by the marvelous work and marvelous students that make up Grogan Residential College. We are quite an impressive lot, I'd like to say. I also want to take a moment here to recognize and thank some of the other folks who are very important to making this program a possibility, beginning with my Associate Program Chair, Dr. Sarah Colonna, who you saw earlier in the program. Dr. Colonna joined Grogan College just 5 short years ago, and in a very short time she's become a driving force behind so much of what we do. And probably most important, one of the most creative and inventive folks that we have working with us. So we owe a great deal to Dr. Colonna, and I know that many of the students appreciate her creativity and her drive as much as I do. Along with Dr. Colonna, I think we also need to recognize that there are quite a few faculty members who have been long time committed to this program and who have been with various iterations of it and who do such a marvelous job teaching. One of the great benefits of being involved with the portfolio in the way that I am on the committee that does the portfolio awards is I get to see the ways in which the different faculty members and the different courses they teach and the different assignments that they create and the work that they do with students is all very, very different and unique in its own way, but nonetheless comes together and adds up to be something really special. So a shout out and a great debt of gratitude and thanks to our faculty, to Dr. Jones, to Love Jones, and also to Dr. Cheryl Lieb, to Meg Horton, to Dr. Dale Shunk, and I just want to say to each and every one of you, thank you so much for all that you've done to make Grogan as strong as it is. I also want to take a moment here to recognize our colleagues in housing and residence life. I mentioned earlier in talking about the Ione Grogan Award that one of the things that makes Grogan special is that it is a residential living community as well as an academic learning community. And we work hand in glove and very successfully with our colleagues and friends, our coordinator of residence life, Daniel Wiggins, and the RA staff who are invaluable to the work that we do and to the work that we just recognized. So thanks to them, and it's a delight to recognize you. I also want to recognize Dr. Jennifer Stevens. Dr. Stevens is the director of the Residential College office, which oversees the 3 residential colleges at UNCG. And Dr. Stevens gets us, she understands us, she's a tireless advocate on our behalf. And so we all want to thank her for her hard work and her dedication to making us as successful as we are. And along with Dr. Stevens, I want to recognize Catherine Stamey, who is our admin for the 3 residential colleges. Catherine is a tireless worker in the trenches who fights all of the battles around budgets and purchasing and moving and organizing and completing and moving projects along behind the scenes. She fights all of those battles for us, which frees us up to do the kind of work that we've recognized here today. So thank you, Catherine. We could not do it without you either. So it's a really marvelous team of folks that surrounds and is part of Grogan Residential College. And along with the marvelous students we've just recognized, I want to say thank you to everyone. And Greta Strong. We'll see you on the other side of summer. Take care. Be safe. Come back and see us.